Hello there, welcoming you all in the physics arena by Nitish sir. Students, today I am going to start a new chapter, that is the chapter number 11, rotational motion of a rigid body. So in a queue of video lectures we have learned a lots of things, how to calculate the center of mass and some related topics with that topic. Okay, so today with the help of this video lecture we are going to learn moment of force and torque, that is the first topic. So first of all, I am going to give you a glance what do you mean by rigid body. A body which is said to be the rigid body if any force is applied to it and there is no change in its shape and size takes place, then such type of the body is termed as a rigid body. In other words, we can define a body which is subjected to a force and unaffected in shape and size is said to be the rigid body. So today we are going to learn moment of force or torque, and which is also known as the turning effect of a body. So the torque or turning effect of an object can be defined as the product of the applied force to the perpendicular distance from an axis of rotation of a body. Students, in order to understand torque or moment of force or that is the turning effect, how we can give the elaboration, we can say that let us suppose that if we are having an object in the two-dimensional geometry, let us suppose that here I am going to draw a two-dimensional geometry. Here this is the vertically y-axis and this is x-axis and this is z-axis. So we are having the three-dimensional geometry, that is a x, y and z axis. So and this is the origin. Okay students, let us suppose that an object is placed in yz plane, xz plane where y is absent. So and let us suppose that this object is having, or this particle is having as p, denoted by p. So the distance between p to O, that is the origin, is, let us suppose that is the perpendicular distance is r. Okay students, so if we are applying a force and the body start to rotate along the y-axis in a circular path, then such type of the effect produced in the body is said to be the turning effect of the body. And we can also see that there is an angle between this line. So we can say that whenever a body is subjected to a force and the body starts to move along a particular axis of rotation, then such phenomenon is said to be the moment of force and can be given by students, as we are knowing that the position vector is a vector quantity. So it is also, so torque can be defined as a turning effect produced in a body along an axis of rotation due to application of external forces is called moment of force of a body. Moment of force of the body. Okay students, so hopefully you are getting what I am elaborating here and how it can be defined as mathematically. So moment of force can be given mathematically as it is a product of, torque is a vector quantity, so it is a product of what that is a product of distance position vector to the force. Okay students, so here we have taken the cross product, so it can be also given as tau is equals to r into f sin theta. Students, as we are knowing that it is a product of two vector quantities, and here the theta is the angle between the perpendicular distance and what, the applied force. So here we can write that where theta is the angle between position vector r and applied force F. Okay students, so now we can also find out that if we are knowing the perpendicular distance of a particle from a fixed axis, and if we are knowing the magnitude of the applied force, then we can easily calculate what amount of the turning effect produced in a body. Okay students, now when we can get, since here it is written that sin theta, and as we are knowing that at theta is equals to 90 degree, it means that if here I am going to give a notification that special case is that when theta is 90 degree, it means that that is r and f are perpendicular to each other, perpendicular to each other. Students, if the applied force and the distance from the axis of rotation are perpendicular to each other, then in this condition we will get maximum torque produced in a body. We will get the maximum torque produced in the body. So student, these are the basic terms regarding with the moment of force. And how can we give its unit? Students, torque has the same dimension as those of the work. Okay, so it is having the same unit. So unit of the torque is what? Unit of the torque is like the same as the dimensional formula of the work. So here we can write that is the product of r into f. So tau is equals to r into f, and r is the distance, so it will be given by, here I am writing unit and dimension. Okay, so this is L and force is mL t to power minus 2, so it can be written as mL2 and t to power minus 2, and its unit will be Newton meter. Okay students, so here if we are writing it is meter and Newton, so torque can be also written as Newton meter in units. So students, what do you mean by rigid body and how we can describe its rotation? Earlier we have learned that if an external force is applied to a system and that system is remain unchanged in its shape and size, then such type of the system of the particle is said to be the rigid body. Or we can say that if an external force is applied to a body and do not produce any displacement of the particles of the body relative to each other, then such type of the body is said to be the rigid body. So students, here I am writing the definition. A body is said to be rigid body. A body is said to be rigid body, if an external force, if an external force, if an external force applied to it, applied to it does not produce any displacement in the particles, any displacements in the particles with respect to each other, with respect to each other, called rigid body. Okay students, so this type of the body is said to be the rigid body. Or we can also say that if a force is applied to a system and it is unaffected in its configuration, then such type of the system is said to be the rigid body. Okay students, so how we can describe its rotation? Let us suppose that when a rigid body rotates about a fixed axis, as we are knowing that always we are choosing a rigid body which is unaffected by the application of force. So let us suppose that here I am going to draw a diagram, that is the x and y axis. Let us suppose that this is a x axis and this is x axis and this is y axis, and if we have chosen a rigid body, let us suppose that this is a rigid body. Okay students, and as we are knowing that a rigid body consists n number of the particle, so let us suppose that this is a particle, first particle, which is denoted by p, and the distance from the origin to the particle p is r. Okay students, and here angular displacement, you can see that this is the x-axis and this is the particle p. So the angular displacement from the x-axis to the particle p is, let us suppose that, theta. Then how we can define the angular displacement? As we are knowing that whenever a force is applied to the object, an object start to rotate along a circular path about an axis, so you can get a circular path, as then here it will be the angular displacement will takes place. Okay students, so for this what we can write that the angular displacement here, angular displacement takes place, angular displacement takes place So what will happen? As we are knowing that arc is equals to, what we are knowing that angular displacement theta is equals to arc upon radius. As we know that angular displacement is equals to arc upon radius. Here arc is what? Here you can see that the arc is from x-axis to the p. So this is the arc and which is given by s. So arc theta is equals to s upon radius is r of the path. So from here we can say that r is equals to r into theta. Okay students, so arc is equals to r into theta, and if we differentiate, this is, suppose this is equation number 1. Now what we are going to do, differentiate equation 1 with respect to time t. Okay student, time t, what we will get? So ds upon dt, change in distance with respect to change in time, will happen here, and r is radius for a circular path will be always constant, so it will be termed as a constant quantity. What will be changed? Then d theta upon dt. Students, since we know that the change in displacement with respect to time is known as linear velocity, and change in angular displacement to the time is known as angular velocity. So what we have written here, that since change in displacement with respect to time is known as velocity and change in angular displacement to the time is known as angular velocity. So we have derived an expression between the v and r omega. So it is also known as the relation between, this is also known as relation between linear and angular what? This is the relationship between the linear and angular velocities of a n particle system. Okay then, so this is the elaboration about the linear and angular motion. Students, if again we differentiate this equation, if equation v is equals to r omega can be differentiated with respect to time t, then what will happen and what we will get? So students, as we have calculated that the linear velocity is the product of angular velocity to the radius of the path, v is equals to r omega. Students, if we differentiate this equation with respect to time once again, so differentiate, let's start, differentiate above equation with respect to time t, what we will get? So dv upon dt will be equals to r d omega upon dt. Students, as we are knowing that change in velocity with respect to time is known as acceleration, so it will be linear acceleration is equals to r, and d omega upon d theta is known, d omega upon dt is known as, because here omega is angular velocity, so change in angular velocity with respect to change in time will be known as what? Angular acceleration. So this is a relationship between the linear acceleration to the angular acceleration of a n particle system. If we are having the linear acceleration of a particle and we are knowing that the radius of curvature of the path, then we can easily calculate that the angular acceleration. So students, what we can conclude that thus we can write that the linear acceleration of a particle, the linear acceleration of a particle in a body is equals to the what? That is the product of angular acceleration of the body and the distance of the particle from axis of rotation. Okay students, so this is the basic funda to learn how to establish a relationship between the linear velocity and angular velocity, and on the behalf of the linear velocity and angular velocity, how we can derive an expression for the linear acceleration to the angular acceleration. Okay students. Students, as we have learned about the linear motion of a body, when a body possesses linear motion, then the equations of motion can be given as, so here I am going to give you a glance how we can differentiate between the linear velocity and angular velocity, and how we can give the equations of motion when a body possesses linear motion as well as the rotationary motion. So let's start with the elaboration. So first, when a body is, and how can give the relationship between them. So when a body is in linear motion, when a body is in linear motion, then the equations of motion equations of motion can be given as v is equals to u plus at, s is equals to ut plus half of at square, and v square is equals to u square plus 2as. Students, as above I have mentioned all three equations of motion in which v is final velocity attained by the body, u is initial velocity attained by the body, and a is acceleration, and s is the distance covered by the object while having the linear motion. So students, now we are turning towards the rotational motion and how we can give the equations of motion when a body is having the rotationary motion. Students, as we are knowing that v represents the velocity of an object. So in case of rotationary motion, it means that when a body is moving in a circular path, it will have a rotational motion. So in case of rotational motion, now I am going to give you the glance that in case of rotational motion, omega naught, as we are knowing that omega represents the angular velocity or angular speed, so omega naught is initial, omega naught represent the initial velocity of the body, omega is final velocity of the body under the circular motion or rotationary motion, alpha is angular acceleration, okay student, and t is time. So you can see from here that, and displacement is, angular displacement is theta, and theta is angular displacement. So in case of an rotationary motion, we can give the equations of motions as, how we can give the equations of motion, that as we can see that here v is equals to u plus at. So here the final velocity is v, so here the final velocity is omega. So first equation of motion is omega is equals to initial velocity is omega naught plus product of acceleration with the time t. So here the angular acceleration is alpha and time is t. So omega is equals to omega naught plus alpha t is the first equation of motion when a body possesses the angular rotational motion. Now turning towards the next equation of motion, that is s is equals to ut plus half of at square. Here s is the linear displacement covered by the object. So in order to give the displacement, here we can see that the theta represent the angular distance or displacement. So theta is equals to ut, u means initial velocity, so here omega naught will be initial velocity into time t plus half alpha t square. Instead of a, we are writing the angular acceleration, that is alpha. Okay, and the third equation of motion can be given as omega square is equals to omega naught square plus 2 alpha theta. So these above equations are said to be the equations of motion under the rotational motion. So students, how we can calculate these equations and how we can derive? So let's start with the derivation part. So first I am going to give you the idea how to calculate equation first under the rotational motion. So equation of motion equation of motion under rotational motion, how it can be achieved? Students, as we are knowing that what, that the angular acceleration is equals to, as we know that angular acceleration alpha is equals to change in angular velocity to the change in time. As we are knowing that angular acceleration, here I am writing angular acceleration alpha is equals to change in angular velocity to the time t. Students, what we can write from here? We can write as d omega is equals to alpha into dt. From here, d omega is equals to alpha into dt. Students, as we are knowing that d presents the small change in the angular velocity and dt shows the small change in the time. So students, if we are willing to calculate this for whole journey, so for this at instant t0 body possess. So when the time will be 0, then the body will possess initial velocity as omega naught, and at time t the final velocity as omega. So students, let us suppose that this is the equation number 1. So let's start to integrate for whole journey. Summation or integration of d omega, not w, d omega, that is the change in angular velocity, is equals to alpha dt. Students, when time t was 0, the body will have initial velocity as omega naught. When time t becomes t, then its final velocity is omega. And as we are knowing that 1 into d omega, we can write that it is 1 into d omega. And here instead of 1, we can write that omega to the power 0. What we can write? Omega naught 1 into, here instead of 1, we can write omega into d omega to the power 0. D omega is equals to 0 to t alpha into dt. Students, now what we can do? So let's start from here. What we can do? That omega to the power 0 becomes omega, and put the value of upper limit, that is upper limit is omega and lower limit is omega naught, is equals to alpha is constant for the angular velocity. So alpha will be come outside, and 1 into dt will give rise as the integration of t to the result, okay, t to 0. Now put the upper limit and lower limit in achieved equation. So it becomes omega minus omega naught is equals to alpha into t. Students, from here we can conclude that omega is equals to omega naught plus alpha t. So this is the first equation of motion when a body possesses the angular or rotationary motion. So students, in this way we can calculate the first equation of motion of the body under the rotational motion. So the students, second equation of motion, as we are knowing that when a body is having the linear speed or linear velocity as v and initial velocity as u, so in that condition we can write that s is equals to ut plus half of at square. Now we are going to demonstrate equation of motion, second equation of motion under the rotational motion. So let us suppose that let us suppose that omega naught is the initial omega naught is the initial angular velocity and omega is final angular velocity. Yes students, what we have considered here as omega naught is the initial angular velocity and omega is the final angular velocity, then what we can conclude? Now we are going to calculate the total distance covered. So as we know that the angular velocity is equals to change in angular displacement with respect to time t. As the distance change, the angular displacement will also change. So from this what we can conclude? We can conclude that the omega is equals to omega into dt is equals to d theta. It means that what we can write, that d theta is equals to omega into dt. Students, as we are knowing that when the time t is equals to 0, or we can also write that this d theta is equals to omega into dt. So what we are going to do, as we are also knowing that from first equation of motion that what omega is equals to omega naught plus alpha t. So this was the equation number 1 and this is equation number 2. So from equation 1 and 2, so put the value of omega into equation number 2. So what we will get, that d theta is equals to, instead of omega we will write omega naught plus alpha t into dt. Okay students, what we have did, we have chosen that from equation number 1 omega is equals to omega naught plus alpha t and put this value into equation number 2. So here we have get that d theta is equals to omega naught plus alpha t into dt. Now apply the distributive property, omega naught into dt plus alpha t dt. This is d theta. If this d theta represents that the small change in the angular displacement, so we have to calculate here for the whole journey. So let's start. When time t was 0, then the displacement was, the theta was 0. At t is equals to 0, displacement was 0. And when time t becomes maximum, that is t, then the angular displacement theta becomes theta. Okay students, and when a body will have time t becomes 0, at that condition what the further changes will do? So let's start. So d theta, so from here d theta integrates from 0 to theta is equals to integration of omega naught dt. Here the variation takes place along the time t. So initially time was 0 and after duration of time it becomes t, plus alpha becomes constant and t into dt, and here also the limits will be 0 to t, because here the variable is time t. So now start for the integration. It can be written as 1 into d theta, and 1 can be written as theta to the power 0. So on integrating we will get theta, and here the upper limit is theta and lower limit is 0. Omega naught will be constant with respect to t. So 1 into dt becomes t, and again we have to put the value as t to 0 to t. And now theta alpha is constant and t. As we are knowing that by the formula, what the formula, that integration of x to the power n dx becomes x to the power n plus 1 by n plus 1. So apply the same formula for here. Here instead of x we are having t, and here n is as 1. So it becomes t and n plus 1 means 1 plus 1, that is t square by 2, and again we have to put the limit as t and 0. So let's start. What we will get after putting the value of the limits, once theta and one 0, so it will be theta, okay, theta minus 0 becomes theta is equals to omega naught once t and then 0, so t minus 0 and alpha into once t square, and once instead of t it becomes 0, then 0 square will be 0 by 2. So from this we can conclude that theta is equals to omega naught t plus alpha t square by 2. This is the second equation of motion. Second equation of motion when a body possesses the rotational motion. Now we are turning towards the last equation of motion under the angular velocity or angular motion. So the third equation of motion can be achieved as students, as we are knowing that. So now alpha d theta is equals to omega into d omega. Okay students, so from here what we can conclude? We can conclude that for the third equation, now when the time t was 0, the initial velocity was omega naught, and when time t becomes t it becomes omega. So now what we are proceeding, that omega d omega is equals to, we can write from here that omega d omega is equals to alpha into d theta. Okay, so let's start for the whole journey, that is omega d omega, and it will be integrate from omega naught to omega is equals to alpha becomes constant for the whole journey, and theta becomes from where, 0 to theta. Now start for the integration, as it is omega with respect to omega, so it will be omega square by 2, and upper limit is omega and lower limit is omega naught alpha, and it can be also written as 1 into d theta, and 1 can be also written as theta to the power 0. So integration of theta is equals to 1 is theta with respect to theta, and here the upper limit will be theta and lower limit will be 0. So now we are going to put the limits. Upper limit is omega, so omega square minus omega naught square upon 2 is equals to alpha theta minus 0. So from here we can conclude that omega square minus omega naught square is equals to 2 alpha theta, which is the third equation of motion when a body possesses the angular motion in a circular path. Okay students, so these are the ways to calculate the three equations of motion when a body is having the rotational motion. Okay students, as we are knowing that inertia, how we can define inertia? Inertia can be defined as the property or the inability with which a body opposes to change in any its state of rest or motion. So how we can define the moment of inertia of a rigid body? So we can define as that the moment of inertia is the property or the virtue with which an object changes, an object or rigid body. Why I am writing here rigid body? Because nowadays we are learning for the rigid body. So in context of rigid body, what I am saying, that the property or the virtue by which an object or a rigid body opposes opposes in opposes any change in its state of rest or motion, state of rest or motion, and that the motion should be rotational motion. Okay, rotational motion about a particular axis of rotation is called, that phenomenon is said to be this property is called moment of inertia. So students, if in your examination it is asked that define moment of inertia or what do you mean by moment of inertia of a rigid body, then you can reply easily that the property or the virtue with which an object or a rigid body opposes any change in its state of rest or rotational motion about a particular axis of rotation is called that the moment of inertia for that rigid body. Okay students, so now with the help of elaboration, with the help of an example, I am going to give a glance what and how to calculate the moment of inertia for a rigid body. Let us suppose that if we are having a rigid body, let us suppose that this is a rigid body which constitutes n number of the particle. So the first particle is m1, second particle have the mass m2, third particle have the mass m3, fourth particle have the mass m4, and let us suppose that in the same way, same fashion, another particle is mn. So different particles have the distance from the origin. So the first particle have the distance position vector which is known as, that is a r1 from origin to the second particle, that is r2, for third particle that is r3, for fourth particle that is r4, and for nth particle let us suppose that is rn. So students, what we have did here, let us suppose that a rigid body consists n particles within it with masses m1, m2, m3 up to mn, and position vectors r1, r2, r3 and so on rn respectively. So in order to give the moment of inertia of a rigid body constituting a number of the particle, we can given as we are knowing that the moment of inertia of a particle is given by the mathematical expression that I is equals to m into r square. It means that is the moment of inertia is also defined as the product of mass of the body to the square of the distance from axis of rotation. So as here we have chosen a rigid body which is having the n number of the particles. So students, for the calculation of the moment of inertia of the whole system, we will give rise that I is equals to, for the first particle it will be m1 r1 square, then for the second particle it will be m2 r2 square, for the third particle and fourth particle till nth particle it will be mn rn square will be the moment of inertia for the whole system. So in this way we can conclude that then the moment of inertia will be the summation of product of mass of the system to the square of the separation from the origin. Okay students, where summation signifies the summation signifies where summation signifies the what summation signifies, it signifies the sum of all the moment of inertia of the particles. Okay students, so in this way we can calculate the moment of inertia for a rigid body. So if it is asked that define moment of inertia for a body, then we can say that the moment of inertia of a rigid body is defined as that is the product of mass and the square of the separation for the axis of rotation. Okay, if we are knowing mass of the particle, if we are knowing that the distance from the axis of rotation, then we can easily state about the moment of inertia about that rigid body. Okay students, so why moment of inertia is required, why it come in existence? Student, as mass of a body is an invariant quantity, so it does not changes with respect to time. So in order to calculate what kind of the changes may brought up when a body is under rotationary motion is applied to a force, then what kind of the changes will take place, in order to discuss we are knowing about the moment of inertia of a body in a rotational motion. So now we are turning towards the what radius of gyration. What do you mean by the radius of gyration and how it can be defined? So let's start with the radius of gyration. Radius means that the distance from a particular point of rotation, means when a body is in a rotational motion, so there will be a certain distance along which it will follow the rotational path or a circular path. So how we can define the radius of gyration? So radius of gyration of a body or a rigid body can be defined as an axis of rotation. So here I am going to describe the radius of gyration. The radius of gyration of a body, the radius of gyration of a body about an axis of rotation, is defined as the radial distance. What do you mean by the radial distance? It means that the distance along the radius. The radial distance of a point from the axis of rotation, at which if the whole mass of the body is assumed to be concentrated. Okay students, so what this statement tells, so let's start with the elaboration. What do you mean by the radius of gyration? Students, radius of gyration means that is a radial distance, that is a fixed radius distance from a point of the axis of rotation at which we can consider the whole mass of the body is concentrated. It means that point is the center of mass, and from that point to the origin of the center, that is a radial distance, will be given by as I is equals to mk square, where as we are knowing that that the moment of inertia is given by mr square, where k is the distance from the point to the center of mass. So we can write that if M is the capital M is the mass of the total mass of the body and K is the distance, then K means radius of gyration. K is known as radius of gyration is given by under root I by m. It means that where K is radius of gyration. A student, how we can define radius of gyration in a simple word? We can say that radius of gyration is a radial distance from the axis of rotation where the total mass of the body is assumed to be concentrated. So in case of rotational motion, we can give that the radius of gyration is equals to under root I by m. What is the physical significance? Why we are going to choose or why we are discussing about the radius of gyration? So student, the total mass of a rotating body may supposed to be concentrated at a radial distance k from the axis of rotation. So far the moment of inertia of the body is also concentrated. It means that whenever a body is in motion, it might be possible that the center of mass may change. So if there will be change in the center of mass, it may arise there is a change in of its inertia. So in order to calculate the moment of inertia of a body about a fixed point, we are discussing that the radius of gyration. Now we are turning towards the next topics, that is a theorem of parallel and perpendicular axis. Okay, so students, now we are going to discuss about the next topic, that is a theorem of parallel and perpendicular axes. As we are knowing that in mathematics that there are the 2 coordinate system and 3 coordinate system. So 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional coordinate system are said to be the coordinate axes. So let's start with the help of theorem of parallel axis and perpendicular axis in order to discuss the moment of inertia of the particle. So students, let us suppose that if we are having a rigid body, let us suppose that this is a rigid body. This is a rigid body for which we have to derive an expression for the theorem of parallel axis. So what this theorem states, first state about that the theorem, then we will go for the derivation part. So what do you mean by the theorem of parallel axis? Students, we can define that this theorem states that the statement for this theorem is that this theorem means this theorem of parallel axis. This theorem states that the moment of inertia of a body about any axis is equals to its moment of inertia, about center of mass. Okay, what I have said here, that this theorem states that the moment of inertia of a body about any axis of rotation is equals to its moment of inertia ICM, moment of inertia, that is ICM about center of mass. A parallel axis, about a parallel axis through the center of mass. ठीक है, what I have said here, that I have said that this theorem states that the moment of inertia of a body about any axis is equals to the moment of inertia ICM. Okay, moment of inertia, okay, about the center of mass about a parallel axis. So students, if we are having a rigid body, for that we can say that the moment of inertia of that rigid body can be given by the sum of the moment of inertia of that body about the center of mass plus that the moment of inertia about any two parallel axes. So let's start its derivation part. What is the derivation part and how we can prove it? So this is the derivation part. So let's start with the derivation. Students, as we are knowing that a rigid body may consist n number of the particles. So let's start a rigid body. We have chosen here a rigid body, okay, and here we are going to construct the two parallel axes. Let us suppose that the first axis is AB and the another axis which is parallel to AB, that is CD. So here we have chosen the two axes which are parallel to each other. AB is one axis and CD is the another axis, and the separation between these two axes means AB and CD is given by a distance small a, or you can also give rise as a distance S or D, and this axis, that is CD, which is passing through its center. So let us suppose that a particle P which is at a distance r from the axis of rotation which is passing from the center. So let us suppose that a particle P in a rigid body which is having the distance r from the axis of rotation. So here I am going to write, let us suppose that a rigid body, in which a particle P is chosen at a distance r from axis of rotation, that is CD, passing from center of mass, we can conclude here, that axis AB is parallel to the axis CD. It means that AB and CD are parallel to each other. Then we are going to take the moment of inertia of this whole system. So again suppose the two axes AB and CD are parallel to each other, these two axes are parallel to each other and separated by distance A. So there is a distance between the two axes which are parallel to each other is A. So moment of inertia, we are going to calculate the moment of inertia. Students, you can see here the distance of this particle P. You can see here the distance of this particle P from the center is r, but from this axis AB, that is r plus a. So we are going to calculate the moment of inertia of this point P or this rigid body about the axis, that is AB. So what we can do? So first we will calculate the moment of inertia of that particle along the axis AB. So moment of inertia of the particle P along axis AB will be equals to, as we are knowing that it will be equals to summation of, because n number of the particles are there, summation of m, and here the distance is r plus a from this axis, r plus a whole square. Okay students, so in this way we can also write that is a, and here from here you can see that is a plus b whole square. So we can apply the square formula. So that is m, open the bracket, r square plus a square plus 2r into a. So this is, from here we can also write that the summation of m r square plus summation of ma square plus summation of 2rma. So this, here we have applied the distributive property to calculate the moment of inertia about the axis of rotation is AB. Now we will calculate the moment of inertia of the body along the. So students, as we are knowing that when a body is in the rotational motion, its acceleration will be constant. So since acceleration A is a constant quantity for the rotational motion, then let us suppose that this is equation number 1. So we can write that IAB is equals to what? IAB is equals to summation of mr square plus, here A is constant, so it will become outside a square, summation of m will be remain, and students, here 2 is a constant quantity and radius will be a constant quantity, mass is also a constant quantity. So you, from here you can write here 2 and a both will be considered as a constant quantity. Conclude that IEB is equals to summation of mr square plus a square summation of m and 2a summation of m into r. Students, here the term 2 is constant, a is also constant, and you can see that the summation of m into r. So this is the product of mass to the distance for a lamina, and it is termed as 0 for lamina. Lamina means whose diameter, or we can say that whose thickness is very small. So in this condition we can write that IAB is equals to summation of mr square plus a square and summation of m, means that is the sum of all the masses of a body. It will be termed as capital M. So from here, and as we are knowing that what we can write and how we can write, summation of m is equals to total mass of the body, and summation of mr square is the moment of inertia about the center of mass. So from here we can write that IAB is equals to ICM plus MA square. So this is the expression of the moment of inertia of a body about any axis of rotation in a rotational motion. So we can write from here that IAB is equals to ICM plus MA square. Okay students, so hopefully you all have got what I have delivered here. Now we are going to proceed for the next topic, that is the theorem of perpendicular axis and how we can calculate the moment of inertia of a rigid body with the help of the theorem of perpendicular axis theorem. So students, now we are going to learn about the theorem of perpendicular axis. What this theorem states? Students, this theorem states that the moment of inertia of a uniform plane lamina is a rectangular shape plane sheet whose breadth is negligible as its length. So this theorem states that the moment of a uniform plane lamina about an axis which is perpendicular to its plane will be equals to the sum of the moment of inertia about any two mutually perpendicular axes in the plane intersecting at the first axis. Let us suppose that, students, how we can understand the theorem. So let us suppose that if we are having a rigid body, okay, and here there is a plane lamina which is placed in a plane xy plane, so there will be z is equals to 0 plane. So what we have did, in order to calculate it mathematically, we have chosen a plane lamina as a rigid body which is placed in the three-dimensional system, that is the x, y and z axis, where x and y axes are there but z becomes 0. Okay students, because this is a z plane, so there is the presence of x and y. You can see that we have chosen a point P whose distance from x axis is x and y to y. So in order to calculate the moment of inertia of this plane lamina about a plane perpendicular, here the plane perpendicular to this lamina is z plane. Here the OZ what we have chosen here, let's suppose that a rigid body as a plane lamina, let us suppose that OZ is the axis which is perpendicular to the lamina. Here OZ axis is the perpendicular to the plane of lamina. So you can see here OX and OY are the two perpendiculars, are the two axes which are perpendicular to the OZ. So students, and also we are knowing that this distance OP is equals to R. So in order to calculate R, we can write that the R square is equals to x square plus y square. Now we are going to calculate the moment of inertia of this lamina about this axis OZ should be equals to the moment of inertia along the OX and OY. So here we have written that the total moment of inertia along the Z axis will be equals to the summation of m into R square, and here R square will be equals to the summation of, as I have stated in the statement, that will be equals to the sum of moment of inertia about the two perpendicular axes. So x square plus y square. If apply the distributive property, what we will get, summation of mx square plus summation of my square is equals to, here from that we can conclude that it is a moment of inertia along the x-axis and moment of inertia along the y-axis. So in this way we have calculated that the moment of inertia of a plane lamina perpendicular to its plane will be equals to the summation of the moment of inertia along the two perpendicular axes. Okay students, so this was the two theorems of the theorem of parallel axis and theorem of perpendicular axis. On the basis of these, there are various formulas given inside of your book. You can go through your book and find out those formulas. Okay.